Hello again, it is Sunny at Creative Therapy, and I was just going to do a quick little explanation of how I made the grab and go, the tool caddy, and give you some measurements. And I just wanted to explain a couple of little things that I had done and tell you a couple little things that I might do differently if I were to make it again. So I can't really get this thing in here because my camera's too low, but for this side piece right here, all right, see in there, yeah, that's not really working with the camera. Okay, so I think, okay, I'm going to try and do this in an organized manner, but you know, my brain doesn't always work in an organized manner, so kind of fighting nature here, folks, but I'm going to do my best. All right. I'm going to start with what you need to cut. All right. For the bottom, and you're going to want to watch this probably to the end, because once I explain to you what you may want to do differently, it may change a couple of the measurements. So I'm going to start with how I cut it. All right. For the bottom piece, all right, I cut for the very, very bottom of the tool caddy. It is cut 10 inches long by 8 inches wide. All right, so you'll need one 8 by 10. For the sides, and of course we're going to cut two of these, you want to cut two 10 by 7 or 7 by 10, whichever way you want to look at that. All right. And now, this is not a 10 by 7. I just grabbed a piece of cardstock and it's 8.5 by 11, but that doesn't matter. I just want to show you how I cut out the shape for the sides. So we're going to pretend that this is 10 by 7. Okay. What I did was I found the center, which if this was 10 inches wide, the center of course would be 5. Since it's 11, it's 5.5. But we're pretending here that this last inch isn't here. Okay. So you find the center, which is 5, and you mark it. So get your pencil and mark your center at the top. Okay. And that's along the long edge. Now on your short edge, I want you to mark 2 inches up from the bottom, okay? Right on the edge. Now, I personally am an X-Acto girl, so I just threw down my ruler, grabbed an X-Acto knife, and cut it. I know a lot of people prefer to use their paper trimmer, so you would just line up the point that's 2 inches from the bottom to the point that's at the center, and you would cut. And of course you're going to turn it around. You're going to do the same thing from the other side. So that's how I got my shape. We're 2 inches up from the bottom to the center top. Okay? That's how you get your two side pieces. All right, so that's not that difficult. For the handle, you want to cut one piece that's 9 high by 8 across. Now, for the hole for the handle, and again, I'm just using this for demonstration purposes. It is not the correct size, but if this were 8 inches across and 9 inches tall, all right, this is how I made the handle. First of all, I just grabbed my crocodile corner chomper and I did 1/2 inch corners on my two corners up at the top, okay? I measured 1 inch down and 1 inch in, and I marked, and then I measured 1 inch wide, okay? So you would have a 1 inch rectangle that was 1 inch from the top and 1 inch in from both sides, and then I just kind of rounded the corners to make an oval, and I drew the shape on there, and then I used my X-Acto knife on my mat and I cut it out. I can't get any more exact for you than that because that's what I did. So, if you have something, oh, for the corners, I did, I took my 1/2 inch rounder and I put a piece of, and then I traced around it and I flipped it over and I traced around it again. So like, okay, here's just a piece of paper that has, a 1/2 inch rounded corner. I made my, you know, rectangle here, and then I just kind of put this in to draw, and then flipped it over and did it again. So it gave me oval shape. And then just cut that out with your X-Acto knife. Now, my handle does seem to be good and sturdy, but if you don't have a good heavy chipboard, you may want to do it double thickness. And, you know, even though this is good and heavy, double thickness wouldn't even hurt on mine. So that's one thing you may want to do different. You may want to do 2 sheets of chipboard for the handle. And again, the measurement for the handle was 8 by 9. And I am going to put these measurements in the description below. But I just wanted to go through the process just to make sure that I didn't miss any as I was writing them down. All right, so now we've cut both sides. We've cut the bottom and we've cut the handle. Okay, the next thing I cut was the divider for the first inch section. Okay, and we're going to cut 2 of these, and these are cut at 7 by 8. Okay, so this is 7, I'm sorry, I'm lying to you. Please disregard. 6 by 8. Cut 2 at 6 inches high by 8 inches across. Okay, then you're also going to cut 2 that are 4 inches high by 8 inches across. And you're going to cut 2 that are 2 inches high by 8 1/8 across. The reason the 2 on the front and back are 1/8 of an inch longer is because these are on the inside and these are on the outside of the chipboard. Okay, so I did cut the 2 that are only 2 inches high 1/8 of an inch longer. For the record, you are going to be cutting a shit ton of construction strips, or shit strips as I call them. And what those are inch wide strips of cardstock scored down the middle that you're going to construct everything with. And if you're taking on this project, I'm pretty sure you know what construction strips are. So, the dividers. All right, so we've got everything cut now. We've got our handle. We've got both sides. We've got the bottom, we've got the front and back, and we've got the long dividers. Now what we're missing are our short dividers, okay? You're going to need to cut 4 that are 2 inches by 6 inches tall. All right, so that's 4 2 by 6. And then you're going to cut 2 2 by 4s. Okay? Now, again, we have to do the little special cut thing, and I'm looking around trying to find something I can demo this on. All right, let's just use this. All right. This is 2 inches wide. It's the wrong length, but it doesn't matter. All right, if you have a grid, any type of grid mat, it works perfect for this. If you don't, you can mark it like we did on our on the sides. Okay, so all you're gonna do is you're gonna go from the top corner on one side to 2 inches down on the other side. And if you have a grid, you don't have to mark anything. You can just lay it down and then you can cut it. Okay, just like that. Now, of course, this is a piece of pattern paper, and you're going to be doing this on chipboard. Same principle, all right? So you start at the top corner, come down 2 inches to the other side. If you don't have a grid, you just measure down 2 inches. you mark it, and you take your ruler and you go from there to there. Okay, so that is all of the chipboard. Now, here's the one thing I want to note. If you use the measurements I have given you, well, let me tell you how I assembled it first before I get to that note. Sorry. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to attach the handle in the center of your two side pieces. Okay? So to do this, I put my construction strips. I started with 7-inch construction strips. I put them flush with the bottom of the handle and up both sides. So you've got 4 of them. You've got one front and back on your handle. So say this is your handle. You've got, you start at the bottom with your construction strips because they're not going to run all the way to the top. So you put your construction strips here, front and back of your handle, okay? And you're going to put an 8-inch wide along the bottom of both sides, all right? So before you do anything, you attach 6 construction strips to the handle, all right, on the bottom and each of the 2 sides. Then you're going to attach it to your side piece and your side piece and nothing on the bottom. Just leave it there, okay? Don't put the bottom on yet. It's much easier to deal with if you don't. Before you attach it to the sides, after the construction strips, before you attach, so you got your strips on, put your pattern paper on, okay? So much easier. So, put your construction strips, do your pattern paper, attach it to your side. Next, get your first divider, put your construction strips again, both sides and the bottom, both sides. So you've got 6. Now, on this one, you're going to want to attach your pattern paper to the flat side. That is this back side right here, not the front, just the back. Okay? Before you attach it to the sides, what you want to do is you want to go measure in from one side, 2.5 inches, make a mark, 5.5 inches, make a mark. All right? And just go ahead and draw lines. I wouldn't take them all the way to the top. Well, you can. They're going to be covered. Just draw this line where this divider is going to go. It's 2.5 inches in and then 5.5 inches in, because this is 2.5 inches, this is 2.5 inches, this one is 3 inches. The one in the center is just a little bit wider, okay? So you've attached your construction strips, you've covered the back with pattern paper, and you've drawn your lines in the front. Now go ahead and attach them to the sides and do the same on the other side. So basically, to construct this, you're starting at the center and you're working your way out. All right, now you've got this on here. I recommend you take your divider strips. Again, you attach your construction strips to your divider. So you've got one on this side, one on this side, one on this side, one on this side. Now, if you want to put construction strips to the bottom of this, you can. I did not. I really didn't think it would structurally matter, so my dividers are not attached to my base, and you can see it's not causing me any problems. I really don't think it's going to in the future. If you want them there, for peace of mind, for extra stability, feel free. It's a 2-inch strip, y'all. You can do it if you want. Again, attach your strips. Go ahead and cover it with your pattern paper. Now, when you cut your pattern paper, you want to cut it at 1 3/4 instead of 2 to leave your border. Okay? And you're going to do the same angle cut on it, but you're not going to come down 2 inches, you're going to come down 1 3/4. So what I did was, since I had this line in here, I just cut it and centered it, you know, because it ended up about right there. I just centered it and cut it along my line. If you don't have that, go ahead and cut it 1 3/4, and I would measure down from this side 1 3/4 and mark it. It's really, if it's a teeny bit off, it really doesn't show much in there. It's just your liner. But anyway, I wanted mine lined, and it's easier to put on these papers as you go. So I went ahead and put my pattern paper on, but you got to have your construction strips first. Don't forget that part. So then attach this to this, and I had these on, and I had my score tape sitting there waiting. And then the next thing I did was I went to my 2x4 piece, and now this angles from 6 to 4. This angles from 4 to 6. Did I mention that? I think you get the picture. But anyway, now, so you've put the handle to the sides. You've put the first one to the sides. You've put the divider to the divider. You've put the next divider to the sides. You've put the center divider to this one. Okay, and again, you just measure in 4 inches and draw your line. Actually, on this one, I eyeballed it. You can measure it if you want to. Here is where I was trying to give you a note before. If you do it the way I did it, this is actually going to end up being longer than 10 inches because of these. Because of this, the width of this, and this, and everything butting up onto it, it pushes it out a little bit further than 10 inches. What I did was I let it bow. I kind of like that rounded look, and I knew that I was going to be putting this in there, and so I wanted to make sure I had room for it. So I did not mind that mine bows in the front. Okay? If you do not want yours to bow and you want your front piece to be straight, all you have to do, if you look in here, well, you probably can't see it in the camera, but the center is about 1/4 of an inch further out than the sides. So if you want it to be flush, what you would have to do is cut both your side pieces and your bottom piece 1/2 inch longer. So instead of cutting these 10 inches long, you would need 1/4 inch on either side, so you would need 10 1/2. So your sides would measure 10 1/2 by 7, and your bottom would measure 10 1/2 by 8. So when you went to cut from the center, you would cut from 5 1/4 down to 2. Like I said, I do not mind them being bowed. If you want yours straight, that's where you're going to make it up. Okay, that's how you're going to make that happen. Okay, so we've got this on. I put this on next, and I went ahead and cut this a full 2 inches. The other thing you could do is you could cut these like 1/8 of an inch smaller. So instead of cutting them 2 inches, you could always go like 1 7/8 and 1 7/8, and but then you would have to adjust your pattern paper accordingly, and that just gets into way more math. So I say either let it be bowed or extend your ends and your side 1/2 inch, and you will be good. So now that you have your front on, everything's together, now you can put it on your base. Okay, but remember that if yours is bowed, you do have 1/4 of an inch gap. So the way I made up for that was I cut my construction strips at 2 inches wide and scored them at 1 inch instead of making them 1 inch wide and scoring them at 1/2 inch. So that more than took care of it. I liked the idea, so I went ahead and did that all the way around. All right, so my construction strips to hold everything to the base are all 2 inches wide. That gives us 2 that are 2 inches by 10 inches and 2 that are 2 inches by 8 inches. And that took care of it for me. That's held everything together pretty well so far. Of course, you know, haven't toted around very long. It's just been a day. I did run to the store and get some Tim Holtz corners, so I'm going to be putting the corners on. I just really think that's going to make it wear better, and, you know, just, I think they make it look a lot more finished, you know. I like those. And even though, I'm not going to put the brads all the way through, well, maybe I will, even though they would show on the inside. I may go ahead and just do that. In a perfect world, I would have thought of this before. I would have put them in before I did the pattern paper, and the pattern paper would cover them. But I'm not real worried about it. It's just tools in there, so I might just have the ends showing. I don't really care that much. But anyway, that is what I've done. I'm going to put all the measurements down in the description. If you have any questions at all, please just put them in the comment section. I'm pretty sure I've covered everything. I used score tape for a lot of my assembly. It was real easy. You know, you've got these 2 construction strips here, and with the score tape you could just hold them back and get that chipboard right in place and then let them go and push them down. That worked really well for me. In some areas like here, I wanted wet glue so I could make sure I just got that full adhesion all the way around. I used wet glue to adhere my pattern paper. What might you need to know? I don't know. If you have any questions, like I said, just let me know and I'll do my best to answer them. And you are only allowed to use my design on one condition. You share. I want you to share pictures, please, please, please. You can post them on my Facebook. I have an art community page called Creative Therapy, so I will put a link to that in the description as well. And when you post them on a page, though, they only show over to the left, but I will share them back onto the page so that they will show better so everybody can see them. I really, really am very flattered that you wanted to know how I made this, and I really want to see what y'all come up with. I know there are a lot cuter papers out there, and it'll look just totally different. And if you embellish it with some stuff, there's just, you know, everybody's take on something comes out totally different, and I think that's fun and gives me new ideas, and it just keeps snowballing. Everybody just keeps taking it to the next level. So let's do that. And as always, thank you so much for watching. And if you have time to like and leave comments, and if you haven't already subscribed, please do. And thanks so much for being there, y'all. Ciao for now.